Hi, everyone. Welcome to Free Recovery Community. Thanks for joining us tonight in person and those online. For those of you who do not know who we are a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. We're breaking the silence of addiction while creating space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. However, there's one thing that we don't do here. If you join me in saying that on 3, 2, 1.
We don't do shame.
Yeah, we got a lively bunch tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm Jerome Eichstead. I'm one of the members of the board of directors here. And this is Danny Colella. Excuse me, words are hard tonight a little bit. Ryan and Carrie are out, so we are here to offer the message. So for that alone, it's a special evening, okay? I'm just grateful that we get to carry the message and the intentions of this organization even when they're not here. So, Danny, you got a few announcements for us?
Yeah, so if this is your first time here, we want to let you know that we have a welcome bag for you. It's full of some awesome goodies, and we want to make sure you feel special for visiting us our first time here. So if you need them, where are they?
They're in the staff office.
They're in the staff office.
So after service,
come find us.
I'd be happy to.
It's got a little bit of wagon coffee. It's got some cool swag, some stickers. So if you're new here, make sure you come up and see one of us. We'll make sure you get a welcome bag. Thanks for being here.
All right, our next one is the Recovery Garden. This started on June 22nd, and I'm not sure if it wasn't clear that this is a weekly thing. So they'll be here as on Sundays, from 10 to 11:30, food provided. And you'll be just doing some like landscaping around the building. I think Michael is here, right? Anyways, I know he was in the building recently. So if you see him, he's wearing a gardening hat. He's unmistakable. He'll fill you in. And please show up for tomorrow.
Yeah, and then next on July 24th, we're doing another sober open mic night. Yeah, so if you've never been to a sober open mic night, it's a really cool event. People come, they do comedy, they do poetry. Some people get on stage and sing for the first time sober. So it's a really good opportunity to come and support people in recovery. We have the most nerve-wracking sober open mic night because of all the lights. But it's a brave thing that people do. So if you've never visited, make sure on July 24th you come check it out and you be a part of the fun night.
Yeah, you do need to. It is a free event. I want to stress that. But please register. The Phoenix and the sponsors, they get a lot of financial support based on people that attend. So it's more for attendance, but we also like to know when we're going to hit capacity for the space. Registration to be a participant is its own area to register, but it's at the same site. So just visit thephoenix.com or .org, and they'll be able to take care of you. We do have a special guest in the house for a special announcement. Zach Bloom, I'll let you take it from here.
Hey everybody, I'm Zach Bloom, and I'm here to announce that right here at Free tomorrow at 9 a.m. until 3 p.m., we are doing a Back to Basics, all 12 steps in one day workshop. Whoa. And so what are the 12 steps? Well, the 12 steps is a way to get sober. It's one of many ways to get sober. It's a pretty traditional way, the way that AA, NA, CA especially. But it also gives you kind of a rundown of the history of AA and how the recovery rates were way higher in the 1930s and 40s when this stuff was first rolling out. And basically how people do the steps has changed a whole lot since then. They used to do it pretty quick. And so doing it, the idea is that, you're not going to have to break up with your sponsor if you're going through the steps in order to come here and do this one-day event. This is to equip you with a better understanding of what the heck are the 12 steps? I was over a year sober and I was still scratching my head. I was completing the steps and wondering what the heck just happened. So this is a deep dive into each of the steps in sequence so that you can understand how these dance moves all kind of fit together so that you can live a life happy, joyous, and free. This is only for these groups. People who have never even done the 12 steps or set foot in a 12-step meeting but are sober curious. These are for people who have been in the rooms but have been like 1, 2, 3 and out. This is for people who have perhaps finished the steps but never sponsored. This is for people who have kind of sponsored some people but want more experience. And then this is for people who just want another spiritual update, or even people who are like super sponsors and you want to like bring all your sponsees. Now I will say, we're going to be doing, so that's everybody basically. So, and also loved ones of addicts. Now it is like an AA kind of centered approach, so you'll get a deep dive on what AA is, the place where the 12 steps originated. But if you're a loved one of an addict or an alcoholic and they haven't done the steps, sometimes that's kind of the idea of what Al-Anon is like you go first. And we would love to have you here tomorrow. Now, the cost is almost prohibitive. It is free, completely free. There is a free lunch. It is co-ed. I should have led with those items. And it's going to be a ton of fun. So again, it's 4 one-hour sessions. Be here in the morning, 9 a.m. But please use the QR code. And if you miss the QR code, this worksheet will be sitting with the other announcements by the ping pong table out here. Okay? If you have any questions, email me, Zach Bloom. It's on here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it very much. I'll take that. Thank you. All right, up next is the celebrations. So we as a community love to discuss the things, like the wins in your life that have happened in the last week or recently. It could be a graduation, a birth, a birthday, bought a new house, milestones, sober birthday, any of those things. We encourage you to share those. We have 3 minutes, and this time is yours. And for those online, go ahead and drop your comments in there, and the tech team will pull them up for us, and we'll celebrate you live as well.
Hey, my name is Layla. I've got 73 days clean and sober today.
Right on there.
Congratulations. Thanks for sharing.
I'm Fredo. Tomorrow I'm celebrating my birthday. I'll be 44, and then this week I'll be celebrating 8 months sober.
Congratulations. Thanks for being here. I'm Jerome. I have one. At the 5 o'clock meeting, we wouldn't allow us to share it, but I said I would do it at the 7 o'clock. One of our favorite community members, Bruce Masters, turned 70 today. Just wanted to wish him a happy birthday.
I love that he celebrated here, too, with his family.
Yeah, but he was very adamant that we don't share while he was here, so got him.
Good evening. My name is Jeremy. This is the building I got sober in, and now I've been sober for 500 days, and I'm still here. So,
Congratulations.
Hi, my name is Christine, and I would like to wish a very happy special birthday to Dr. Lacey Brewerman. She has been a wonderful woman in my life, a mentor, friend, and happy birthday, Lacey, if you're hearing me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Lacey.
Yeah, she was one of our board members, and she's very well connected here. Happy birthday, Lacey.
We love her. She's in Texas, but maybe she's joining us online.
Hi, I'm Austin. Today I'm celebrating 309 days sober.
Congratulations.
Hey there, my name is Ryan, and I've been in treatment for 90 days, and tomorrow I'm moving back home with my family.
Congratulations, Ryan. Keep up the good work.
Hello, my name is Weston, and today is day 33, and I also brought 2 of my friends here tonight.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. All right. That's it for celebrations. Tammy, would you join me for the online celebrations?
I mean, you're not as good looking as my husband, but yeah.
I'll take that. You can go first, because I'm kind. Yeah. Oh, look at that.
Oh, there he is. Grateful for this community. Thank you, Danny and Jerome, for leading tonight. Selah and I are in Durham, North Carolina, and we just got to hang out with free people this evening, Jen and Christy and Jason. Yeah, that's so special. They were having some ice cream.
Yeah.
You know, it's National Ice Cream Day tomorrow. They just did it early.
I love that. I mean, I'm going to celebrate tonight, but for tomorrow. All right, Kaylin, celebrating 1,313 days free of meth and fentanyl and enjoying a family trip in Grand Lake, Colorado. Congratulations,
Congrats,
Kaylin.
Kaylin. And there's Jen. Christy and I are so grateful to spend some time this afternoon with Ryan and Selah at a local ice cream shop in downtown Durham, and we're looking forward to hearing him preach in the morning at Aldersgate UMC here in Durham, North Carolina. Let me know how he does, Jen.
Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah.
All right, so the next part of the evening is the message, and we have a guest to share the message with you tonight, but he's no stranger to the community. It's Danny Colella, and I just wanted to share a couple things about him from my perspective, because I don't get to introduce him too often. When we were at the old location, Danny asked me, he's like, what do you have going on Saturday night at 5 o'clock? And I didn't have an answer. He's like, well, do you trust me? I do. He's like, will you go to free with me? I had no idea what it was. Here we are, a couple years later. Danny was the person that I trusted enough just to come in these doors, and I've never left. For that, I'm grateful. Please come to the stage, Danny Colella.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I love your energy. You got to come up here and just scream behind me on stage. That'll keep me going. No, hey, everybody. So glad you're here. My name's Danny Colella. I'm the digital content director here at Free. So a lot of the videos you see is the work that I do here. So I like to take our message and the great stuff that happens here and make sure everybody outside of these walls gets to hear it and gets to see the great work we do here. But today I have a pretty unique message, something that we've really never talked about here at Free before. And we're going to talk about a hidden addiction. So anybody out here ever love somebody who's battling addiction from substances, drugs, or alcohol? Yeah, you know, there's a lot of the signs, right? You can smell it. You can see it in somebody's eyes. There's slurred speech. They forget things. There's blackout moments. There's a lot of these signs that come with a substance addiction, right? But with a process addiction, what if a lot of these signs weren't visible? What if there wasn't the smell? What if there wasn't the visuals? What if there wasn't anything that you could really see to tell if somebody was struggling? And that's kind of what we're dealing with when we talk about process addiction and when we talk about gambling addiction tonight. This is really a hidden addiction. The signs aren't there. Lots of us we don't even know how to really look for it. And through tonight's conversation and message, I do want to get everybody just a little more clear on what's going on, because this is a thing now. It's been a thing for a little while, but ever since sports betting was legalized in 2018, this has been a thing. And just to give you a little preface on me, I'm not a clinician, so I don't have a huge background on this, but I am a massive supporter. And when I saw how this was rising and how this was showing up in our community alone here, people that are battling substances, but then find another way to fill that void, which is pretty common, I knew we had to talk about it. So I just spent a week in Columbus, Ohio, 2 days at the national conference for the National Conference on Problem Gambling. So I'm not a clinician, I'm a normal person. If you have questions after all of this, or you're somebody that's curious, or want to support somebody in your life, I would encourage you to come up and talk to me about it. So let's talk about the era that we're entering into that's really starting to be prevalent. When we think about things like problem gambling, you need to go to a casino, right? You got to get in your car, you got to drive all the way up to Black Hawk and spend some purposeful hours there. But when it comes to problem gambling today, for blackjack, for roulette, for sports betting, if you want to wager on bets, this is about all you need. That's it. Right here. This is buy you most of your day, This is by you when you sleep at night. This is by you when you're feeling stressful. This is your trigger device now that allows you to access the gambling gamut of the world. And before we move forward, I want to be clear. I'm not pro-gambling or anti-gambling. I don't think it's bad, and I think generally, just like alcohol or substances, they're not bad. It's your relationship with them. So when I talk through everything today, the point is to kind of educate you and help you understand this new hidden addiction that's kind of starting to creep its way into our culture and into our world. But I'm not anti-gambling. So if you're out there and you're like, I go to Black Hawk, is he talking to me? Probably not. I mean, a lot of people can have a really healthy relationship with this, but there's a subset of people that don't. And these hidden addictions are pretty powerful. When we talk about problem gambling, it is the highest prevalence of suicide of any addiction. Yeah, I had to pause there for that. Think about the financial harm. Think about the damage you do to your family. Think about the distrust if you love somebody that's going through this. Think about being a loved one and getting that bill in the mail that your loved one used to get before you, but this time you got it and you find out your house might be getting repossessed. All these things come along with this, and that's really what we're going to focus on today. Why are we talking about this here tonight, and why are you in the audience so important? A, because you know how this works, right? A lot of you out there are either in recovery or love someone who's in recovery. You know the ups, the downs, the in-betweens, and you understand what it means to be helpless over some kind of substance in your life. Some of you out there might have a process addiction and don't even know it yet, but maybe tonight we'll shine some light on it, and when Terri Ann gets up here to share her story, you'll see how it can be pretty prevalent in our already existing industry, in our already existing community. And the beauty of everybody in this room right now is if we can get you equipped enough to know it, well, then we have a workforce of people out there who are ready to educate and build awareness around something that doesn't need to sweep our nation, that doesn't need to sweep the feet under our youth who are sports betting like crazy. We're going to have some real resources, and we're going to have some real solutions together. So it's important to know that this isn't going anywhere. Since sports betting was legalized in 2018, this is going to continue to rise. This is going to continue to be a thing. More people are going to be exposed to it. And more importantly, more people look at this like it is an actual job or an opportunity to make money. If anybody's on social, you've probably seen influencers and people that are doing this online, whether it's roulette or blackjack. This has become a pretty popular thing. So it comes to my attention that most people still don't even know what process addiction is. So we're going to talk about process addiction. First, we're going to talk about the things that are process addiction. So process addiction can be just about anything, right? There are some more harmful ones than other ones, but shopping can be something that allows you to escape. Pornography, gaming can be a process addiction. The list can kind of go on and on. This can be a process addiction. Social media can be a process addiction. Anytime you feel that urge to do something that you don't know why, those are those things that kind of get put in this category. But we're going to talk a lot about problem gambling today and the prevalence of that. So this is something, problem gambling was first recognized in the 80s, so in 1980. And a big historic moment for this addiction is in 2013. It was recognized, moved from a category to the addiction category. So it was first recognized as a behavioral, it's the first officially recognized behavioral addiction in the DSM-5, as you can see on the screen. It comes with a preoccupation with gambling. It needs to gamble. People need to gamble with increasing amounts of money, repeated unsuccessful efforts to stop gambling, and jeopardizing relationships, jobs, or other things, lots of other things. So I myself am not in recovery from drugs or alcohol, so I can drink one beer or half a beer and put it down, and I don't know why the rest of you can't. Which is really common when it's not your thing. So as you listen today, I need you to recognize that there are people who can't stop this in ways that you couldn't stop your thing. And it doesn't mean that you have to understand it, and it doesn't mean that you have to get it, but just like I can put down the beer and you can not gamble, your mortgage, there are people out there who really can. So this is something that has been fully recognized and is an actual addiction. Out of all the things I said, pornography, shopping, social media, this is the one that is actually recognized as an actual addiction. So here's the definition of process addiction. Compulsive engagement in a rewarding behavior despite adverse consequences that functionally resemble a substance addiction. Functionally resemble a substance addiction. So this is incredibly similar to what you're going through if you're battling drugs or alcohol, or have battled drugs and alcohol, or have loved someone who battles drugs and alcohol. This is incredibly similar. A lot of those same things that happen in the brain, which we'll talk about in a second, are happening with this addiction. So how does it affect the brain? So we have a brain diagram that I want to bring up on screen here. So it has that same dopamine surge, right? And again, not to trigger anybody, but when you have that first drink of alcohol or whatever it is, that first dopamine rush that we all just love. I mean, this comes with sugar. This comes with just about anything we love. It triggers a reward system, so it hijacks the brain's reward system and ultimately impaired control. So, there's less of the exertion of self-control in this cycle. So this is exactly what's happening to your brain in process addiction. Now, you need to know that these are the exact same cycles that any drug that you have, your brain goes through these exact same cycles. So I didn't get to share this last time, but I want to talk about a personal story that I learned when I first came to the drug and alcohol industry. It was at a company called Sandstone Care, and they did a presentation, luckily for me, that was made for a 7th grader, so I could understand it. Like I said, I'm not clinical, so this was super easy, but it was explained to me that when you use a substance, ultimately the dopamine in your brain that typically is organic and naturally occurring, after a certain amount of time of using a substance, your brain stops making these chemicals. Your brain stops producing these chemicals. Why? Because it's relying on this substance. It's relying on this outside thing. It's generally, in a lot of ways, being smart. Hey, I don't need to create this. You keep giving me all this good stuff, right? And that's the same with problem gambling. And ultimately, we have these dopamine hikes. People chase these dopamine hikes. Then there's the time when we leave, or we put the drink down, or we don't go back to the casino. And these are the dark moments after extended periods of time where our brain is no longer functioning normal. And I learned that your brain stops making those chemicals, so that when you decide it's time to quit, when you get that energy and that enthusiasm that let's stop, I'm ready, ultimately for a little while there, your brain could not be naturally producing these chemicals, so it creates these dark periods, which ultimately create this cycle of use, right? People want to feel good, they go back to it, and after a certain amount of time, these are the habits, and this is how it is starting to rewire your brain, and it's the exact same thing. I know you might wonder, well, you're not putting a substance in there, how is your brain doing it? Your brain is smart. We know that. Some of your brains are smart. But your brain is doing it, it's naturally happening, and when it starts to get those other chemicals, your brain stops doing it. So the same thing with problem gambling, you're feeling all those highs, it's all doing the same thing. And these are the exact reasons, because neurologically and the way your brains work, it's almost the exact same thing that's happening with substance use. And again, I recognize that might be hard for you to understand, because it's not a substance. It was hard for me. I'm like, if you're not ingesting anything, how could it be that way? But that's the truth, and that's why this has been recognized as an actual addiction, because for the people that are battling it, the people that are struggling with it, it is that exact same cycles, exact same lowness. So let's pull up an image about process for substance. Should have pulled this up a couple seconds ago, but it essentially shows you the difference between process and substance and the things that are in the things that are at play. And I told you it was a little bit about that dopamine, that reward system. And these are all things with gambling, pornography, gaming. Process is just that compulsive engagement in rewarding behaviors. Keyword being compulsive. Keyword being somebody doesn't have control anymore. It's a compulsive behavior. And substance is that compulsive use of psychoactive substances. So it's the same thing, but you're just chasing substances. But again, the point that I want you to leave with today, without a doubt, is that there's not a large difference. The brain doesn't quite know that this is any different, which is why it turns into some of those bigger addictions. And let's talk about why gambling is especially dangerous. I'm going to pull up this gambling marketing laws. This is going to be shocking for you. So we have some icons on here. We have banned, permitted, and permitted with limitations. Now, if you look at Germany, Belgium, Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, it seems like there's a little bit of self-control around this. And what do you see with the USA? We're like, send it. Anywhere, anytime, social media, influencers, whatever you need to do, do it. And this is where we're at right now. And I just saw this in a presentation when I was at the National Council for Problem Gambling. Somebody had done a full study on all of this. And this was what I took from it. And I was like, this is crazy. So we pretty much are allowing just about anything to get somebody enticed into the idea of starting to gamble. Just about anything. There's really no, we don't have one permitted with limitations mark on our sheet. So there's this whole onslaught of advertising, social media influencers. Like, you cannot watch a sports game anymore without there being an ad about sports betting, right? Bet365, MGM, whatever it is, you cannot engage in sports without seeing these types of advertising. And you cannot go on social media without seeing these types of advertising too. And this is kind of, again, yeah, the wild, wild west of it all. So this especially makes our youth pretty vulnerable. So you may or may not know this, but there are influencers and streamers out there who gamble full-time online. They gamble, they show kids how to gamble, they normalize gambling, and these are things that young people are being wildly introduced to at a much earlier age. And it's crazy to think, but people are using this to make money. They think this is a job. Because if you'd have told, like, 2000s me that people would start making billions of dollars on YouTube, I'd be like, probably not. But that is an actual job and an occupation now that my kids might end up doing one day. So the point is, a lot of this is being glamorized. Ads are happening every day. It's an onslaught. And the younger population, our youth, are really at risk with all of this. I don't know if you guys know who Drake is, but Drake's a really popular online gambler. So he does gamble. He does live streams where he gambles. And most people don't know, but when you're an influencer, right, you typically get paid for what you do. But in his scenario of how he influences and how he gambles online is he gets to keep a portion of the winnings that he wins, but he doesn't have to deal with the losses. So that shows kids, that shows humans, that shows us how to gamble. That shows us the amount of money you can win with gambling. But in these scenarios, there's no real consequences for losing. So they can just kind of go and kind of entice you to be a part of the platform. So there's a lot at work here. There's a lot at work here that's trying to get into you. And again, I know I'm talking about this in a way for us to be cautious, but I don't want you to feel guilty if you're a healthy gambler, okay? Because you might be doing just fine, and that the odds are that you will do just fine. But that subset of you that aren't, or feel some of these inklings in you that this could be a problem, or I just had a conversation with 2 people last service who were like, man, I sent some of this to my friend, right? Because we have that friend. They're always sharing those wins, never talking about those losses, but they're sports betting, and they're doing it every day. So I want to put, let me see where I'm at. So I want to put a little visual cue, from a biblical standpoint, and we see in Psalm 119-37, turn my eyes from worthless things, preserve my life according to your word. And this is something that's very relevant at this stage. There are things everywhere. We're talking about problem gambling, but there's pornography. All of these things are continuously thrust in front of us, encouraging us to do more, hijacking our dopamine system. But we got to turn our eyes. We gotta look away, because it's going to be in front of our face for quite a long time. And again, I talked a little bit about how close this is now, how close this is to us. It's on our devices. It's on our phones. We can't really escape it. It's there. If we have a problem, if we're dealing with pornography, if we're dealing with problem gambling, again, turn the phone on. What are you going to do? One of the things with substance addiction, too, is we hear a lot about not yet, things you haven't done yet, right? There's these moral walls where you're like, oh, I would never do that. And then you find as you progress in your addiction, these things become non-existent. They're behind you. And you have people who are battling with problem gambling, and they will take credit cards out in their kids' names. They'll do whatever it takes to keep this secret, to keep this rolling, to keep going down this road. And again, the reason that we're talking about this today, and the reason that we took the opportunity to talk about this today, and we're actually having this conversation as a community, is because this is probably happening close to you or near to you, or there's somebody that you know, but again, they don't have glassy eyes, they don't smell like alcohol, they're not impaired, they're not slurring their speech. So nobody notices. So those stories, and what I've always said is like, hey, if you battle alcohol or substance, you have those blackout moments, right? Where you don't know what happened. So if somebody challenged you, you're kind of like, I think I maybe did that. But these people are able to really put together complex stories, keep those stories in line, and this lie and this addiction continues to go on and on. And this is why it is one of the highest suicide risks of all. So 1 in 2 contemplate, 1 in 5 attempt. Because this is financial ruin. This is shame, deeply, right? This isn't as simple as just going to rehab, coming back out and getting a job. This is years of restitution. This is losing your house, losing your wife, losing your family. As a man, losing your self-worth through this process. So it's incredibly damaging. So let's talk about the risk spectrum. So it's important to me that you're at least somewhat educated on what the risk looks like, and if you love anyone in your life or anybody does come in your life, what are some of the things you should really look at? So we're going to take a look at this risk spectrum right here. Low risk, you're occasionally gambling, you set time and money limits, and you have no urge to chase your losses. And when we say chase your losses, that means there are people out there that when they lose $5,000, well, all they can think about is how am I going to get that back and more. Doesn't care what it takes. How am I going to get that back? If you're slightly at risk, you're gambling to escape stress. Terri Ann is going to tell us a little bit about that in her storytelling moment. It's an escape, right? What are your motives? Sorry, I'm stealing some of your story, but it was so good. What are your motives? Why are you going there? What are you escaping? You're spending more than you planned, meaning you're like, I'm going to go there for $200, and then when I'm out, I leave. And then all of a sudden, you lose your $200, and you're sneaking away to the ATM. And you're borrowing to gamble. You're at risk. Now, if it's problematic, meaning you're having issues in your life, you're lying about your gambling. So this is a part where you really need to start looking internal. You're lying. You're being dishonest to people you love, to people in your life. You're feeling a little out of control, and ultimately, gambling starts affecting your relationships, right? Your wife, your husband, your spouse, your friend, somebody's mad at you because they know you're going off the rails. And then severe. Gambling leads to major financial, emotional, or legal consequences. And this is the most at risk. And that's when gambling, lots of times you can't lie anymore. Everything starts to come out. Bills start to come. I've talked to guys who they knew when mail was coming, and they knew when to get to the mailbox before anyone else could get to it, because they had to cover it up. I heard a story from somebody, because I'm all about stories, I film stories here, somebody in recovery that his dad passed away, and he used the money to bury his dad to try to win more money, and he lost it all. And again, these are these moral things that you think you'd never cross, that they can get that bad. And then ultimately, here's 7 questions. So when you enter into a GA group, which we are launching, a GA meeting. We'll talk about that a little during storytelling. There's 20 questions, and I just chose 7. So these are questions that you can kind of ask yourself. Do you ever gamble longer than planned? Do you gamble to escape problems or stress? Do you borrow money to gamble? Have you lied? Have you tried to stop and couldn't? Do you feel guilt after gambling? Has it caused problems in relationships? So if you're answering yes to 2 or 3 of these questions, or you think you can answer yes to 2 or 3 of these questions for somebody in your life, then you might be heading down the road and you might need a little bit of support. So ultimately, I want to talk to you about not letting this surprise us, okay? So this got legalized in Australia, major repercussions. got legalized in the UK, major repercussions. Legalized here, we're going down the same road. And we don't want this to turn into a fentanyl where we're not quite sure how the hell it happened, right? And now we're dealing with the consequences and the fallouts. So I want you to be educated that we as a community, we as a collaborative community, again, my initiative here is for you to be a little more educated, to have that conversation. What I love about the people in this room is I know you'll have the conversation. You won't always get there, because just like when you were stubborn in your addiction, you might not always get there, but you're going to allow yourself to be that person who's there when somebody does start to struggle. And we as a community are ready to carry that torch together. I know we are. I don't have to ask you. That's why you're here. That's why you're in this community. That's what we are best at here, is breaking the silence of addiction, right? And creating space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection, which is what we're going to be doing when we launch our GA meeting here. We're going to create an infrastructure for people to come, to be curious, and most importantly, it doesn't have to be you. It could be somebody you love, and you're just curious about ways in which you can really start to support that person. So that's my dream, is that you got something out of this tonight. I know when I talked to everybody, a couple people from the last one, they felt like they learned a lot, and I hope you did. But if you have questions, I want you to come up and ask me, or I want you to come up and ask Jerome. Jerome is walking with me on this. Lance, if you know him, he's out here. He's walking with me this as well. We have the resources. We know what we can do to get the support, so please reach out. So as we do with most every week, there's a song that we get to play. I thought about playing, Kenny Rogers, The Gambler. It just didn't feel right. But I was going to tell you to watch it through the lens of like somebody that's struggling, so it could have hit a little better. But ultimately, I chose a song in this community that I think is one of the most fitting songs for what we're about here. If anybody knows, you know we don't do shame. The thing that I love about this community is we all kind of lead with our bullshit, right? We're not hiding behind it. We're not afraid of it. Everybody comes here. They show up real. They show up authentic. They show up with purpose. So this song has, since the beginning of Free, always reminding me of who we are here and what we're about. And we don't believe those lies. And everything they say in this song are the things that we do best here. So check it out.
Welcome back. This part of the evening is reserved for a community member or a subject matter expert, in this case, both. It's time for them to share their experience, strength, and hope with us regarding their story or their journey. Terri Ann is someone that I've known for a while. I've seen her. She's been a crucial part of our community, doing volunteer work, supports us with her sober livings. She's just a person who continues to give in her journey. And she's also one of the people who's going to help support us start our first GA meeting, Gamblers Anonymous meeting, here at Free. So our first one will be August 13th at 11 a.m. It'll be a reoccurring Wednesday meeting. And she's been gracious enough to help us get that launched. If you would please join me and welcome Terri Ann Darling to the stage. All right, Terri Ann, thanks for joining us. I told you like the 7 o'clock has a little different feel, but for some reason I can see more people. I think it's good though. And would you please start us off by sharing your like sobriety journey, because you're not new to recovery, and you have a very great way of correlating these co-occurring addictions that I think our community would definitely benefit from knowing. So if you kind of start from the beginning of sobriety, and then we'll get into how it all correlates with addiction. But you got a lot to share, so I need to give it over to you.
Okay, so in 2007, I made the decision to leave a 15-year marriage, and I took my 3 kids and moved out on my own, and he kind of disappeared, and so I essentially became a single mom pretty shortly after that. So over the course of the next year, we tried to work the marriage out, but he was using and I was drinking, and well, we were both doing both. And he, I just lost my train of thought. Hang on. Oh, no worries. So during the course of that year, I got a job bartending. I got sober behind a bar. I finally got sober. God, I just had a brain fart. Sorry, you guys. Okay, so 2 people that year had called social services on me. And I had to make a decision because the second time they came, they said, if we have to come again, we're going to take your kids. And at that point in time, I was not willing to lose my kids over drugs and alcohol. So, you know, I had heard about the 12 steps. I was not able to go to rehab or detox because I would have lost them anyway. So I started going to AA, and pretty much kicking and screaming the whole way. I have my sponsor, who I've had for probably 15, 16 years now. And yeah, so.
Yeah, awesome. Or thank you for sharing that. Like, it is awesome, but I just mean thank you. How has like early sobriety really kind of affected your family? I know you come from a lot of loss and grief, and navigating early recovery is hard enough, let alone that. And I remember there's a significant amount of loss that you endured. And then your harsh relationship with your husband definitely impacted things. Like, you had a non-existent parent for a while. Can you shed some light on that? Just the challenges of your primary addiction, I'll call it that just for conversation's sake, the challenges of your primary addiction, and then eventually leading you into this recognizing that you have some addiction behavior showing up again with gambling.
Yeah, so addiction runs pretty rampant in my family. My biological mother died at 30 in a drunk driving accident that she caused. My adoptive father died I was 17 when he died of a heart attack due to alcoholism. When I was 22, my older brother took his own life over drugs and alcohol. My oldest, his dad died about 15 years ago of an overdose. My ex-mother-in-law died at 48 of drugs and alcohol as well. And then in 2011, my ex-husband ended up on Denver's 25 Most Wanted. And so he got an 18-year sentence that year. And kind of the cool thing, though, is that he ended up getting pardoned about 8 years later, and now he has 14 years sober, and we co-parent very well. And I now have 2 children in recovery as well, so my oldest is almost 3 years sober, and my youngest is almost 2 years sober. So, yeah. So, kind of the cool thing about that is I'm getting to see it come full circle, and I will be a living amends to them till hopefully the day I die. So, but yeah, so, you know, I was probably around 3-4 years sober, and I had gone up to Blackhawk with some friends, and then took, I don't know, $90, came home with over 600. And then I went about a month later, I think I took 60, and I came home with over 300. And, well, bells went off, right? So I'm like, I can make a little extra money on the side, right? So over the course of that next year, I started going once a month, and then it was once a week, and then it was 3 times a week. And at the time, I was a draft tech for Coors, so I had the ability to move my schedule around. I could work whatever days, whatever times I wanted, because I had accounts that I would service. And at the end of that year, I was starting to take out payday loans, to pay off payday loans, to gamble, to try to win money. And I was considering bankruptcy at that point. I kind of justified it because I hadn't spent my rent money on it, but the attorney that I was speaking to asked me if I had ever heard of a self-exclusion, and I had not. So what that is it was, at the time, it was through the Problem Gambling Coalition of Colorado, which I believe now it's through the state of Colorado, but you print out the paperwork, you have it notarized, and you essentially ban yourself for, you can do 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or a lifetime. And I did it for a lifetime because I don't regain control of my addictions. So what it did, though, is it gave me the ability to kind of set that one aside, even though I had even gone to a Gamblers Anonymous meeting, and the stories that I heard in there, I was like, no way, I'm not going down that road, right? I need that addiction like I need a hole in the head. So, so I went to Vegas for my first time a few years later, and I used to always joke that when I went to Vegas, I'd do damage, but I had to plan it. You know, I had to plan that trip. But about 5 years after I did that self-exclusion, I snuck up to Blackhawk because I thought, who's gonna know? Well, I got caught after going a few times. And then about 5 weeks ago, so I've gone to Vegas, you know, every couple years, and I just justify it. I tell myself, you know, I've got control over it. It's not that bad. You know, I'm only spending this much money on these occasions. So, yeah.
Yeah, so you found yourself activating the self-help aspect of it. Your addict behaviors convinced you that it was okay to circumvent that. And if, for those of you that don't know, the self-exclusion, they're not gonna post guards up at the door and not allow you to go in. If you win, they're gonna confiscate your winnings and put it in a fund that is going to be distributed at a later time, but you're basically just going up for risk only. So it's, again, that cognitive dissonance, removing her from her morals and values to go up and do something that she believes will give her that, you know, it'll satisfy that dopamine rush. But we understand this is it. It's cunning in that way, right? One of the real powerful things you shared with me was that recent confrontation with your daughter about your most recent visit to Blackhawk. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so about 8 weeks ago, I had pretty major shoulder surgery. So I kind of disconnected from my meetings, and after a few weeks, I was starting to get overwhelmed, just being kind of stuck at home. And so about 5 weeks ago, I went up to Blackhawk, and you know, I took, I don't know, a couple $100 with me, and then my youngest still lives at home. And so I got home at 11:30 that night, and I don't get home that late ever. So she says, you know, did you go to Blackhawk? And I always said that if they asked me a direct question, I would be honest, but I wouldn't disclose it if they didn't ask. So, so kind of back to that lying, cheating the system, you know. So it becomes a discussion with my other kids when they do find out if I've gone up there. And my middle daughter, I talked to her the next day, and I said, well, you know, I still have some control over this. I only spent $150. And she said, so you basically like you taking a couple sips of beer. And I'm flipping her off under my breath, you know? And it just dawned on me that I've always kind of kept this like the self-exclusion was probably the best thing I ever did. Like if I had kept going at the rate I was going, I honestly don't know where I'd be today because it just caught me. And I was chasing those wins and chasing those losses. But when I was up there that night, I was like, why are you up here? Like I was exhausted. I was still in an arm sling, you know? And I'm like, why are you up here? Like I haven't been up there in like 4 years, you know? And I realized that I was escaping. I was stressed out. I hadn't been to a meeting in a couple weeks. And so that was one of the things my sponsor and I had talked about because my addiction has overflowed into other areas as well, like shopping or ice cream. Like I still eat a pint of ice cream every single night.
Good thing it's National Ice Cream Day tomorrow.
Perfect. So it's been caffeine. It's been, you know, anywhere that if I'm disconnected, then I'm seeking either the escape or the dopamine rush or that instant gratification. And so after talking to her, it just kind of clicked that maybe it was something I needed to take a look at. And I've never really talked about this with people. Like even some of my closest friends didn't know that I had, because they don't see me going to gambling all the time. But it's when I do, it's the way I process it. So on the way up there, I'm justifying. You know, this is all right. I'm in recovery. I'm 18 years sober. I'm this and that, whatever. And then on the way home, I feel so guilty. It doesn't matter if I spent $50 or if I spent $1,000. Like it's the same thing with drinking, you know, like one's not enough, but I'm justifying and then I'm kicking my own rear end, you know? And so those are all the addictive behaviors. Those are all my old behaviors when I was using and drinking. And so this is the first time that I'm talking about it and sharing about it. And, you know, my 12-step recovery, I know that when you do your 4th step into your 5th step, you're not saying it so that the other person knows what you did. You're saying it because it takes its power away. And so that's why I chose tonight to share part of my story, because it's actually working. You know, it's taking its power away. And I think that there's a lot of stigma and shame that go with, especially gambling. I mean, I wouldn't date a gambling addict. But, yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. It's so interesting to hear how you can, you know, acknowledge your recovery and be present and working the steps and doing those things. And those things are these other like correlated issues continue to rise, right? Mm-hmm. You did mention that you have like a theme that your therapist gifted you or something that like grounds you and recenters you. And I couldn't help but note it. Can you please explain when you tell yourself that you need to check your motives?
So that was one of the things that my sponsor and I talked about when I was about, 10 years sober-ish. And I would bartend all weekend, and so I would have a lot of cash on me. And so if I was disconnected or not getting to enough meetings, I would just take a day and go to like store hopping and spend money on things I didn't want, I didn't need. It was just that outlet and that instant gratification. And so her and I were talking about it one day, and she said, you know, it's okay to go to the store to buy something. You know, she says you just need to check your motives. Like, is there something that you need? Like, it's okay to buy a pair of shoes, it's okay to buy a new purse, but is that what you're there for, or are you just there to spend the money and get the instant gratification? And so this last time that I was up in Blackhawk, it just, I don't know, it's just weird because this time just everything kind of clicked. And I was like, why are you up here? Like, so I guess for me, with any place, like really anything that I do in my life today, it's like, I know that now I'm getting better about asking myself, is this conducive to the life that I have or the life that I want? And, you know, overspending, eating too much ice cream, gambling, smoking too many cigarettes. All those things are things that I'm starting to take a look at because they're not conducive to where I want to be or where I'm at.
Well said. In closing, if you could share one thing with someone out there, like in person, online, that might be questioning their co-occurring addictions, like what would you have to offer?
You know, I guess for my recovery, that rigorous honesty piece is huge, and not just with others around me, but with myself. And, you know, if you're having those conversations in your head where you're justifying feeling guilty, you know, maybe it's something to take a look at. I mean, the 12-step program is to thine own self be true. So I think the reason that I love free is because it's you know, we don't do shame. And I think that a lot of these other ones have that stigma to it. So, and it's even kind of uncomfortable for me to share this part of my story because I've never really shared it before. So I think just getting honest about it, and, you know, like when you come into AA, they say pick up that 500-pound phone. I think it's the same thing with anything that we're struggling with. So asking for help, asking for support, seeking out resources.
Thank you very much for your courage. And yeah, definitely worth sharing. So you'll be here for a little bit after the service, and I definitely encourage you to go up and share your, you know, what's coming up for you with her. She's incredibly great to talk to about this stuff, and I do have a feeling this is going to be an icebreaker for us, for people to start coming forward with this. We do have the resources that are coming to the surface to help with it. But thanks again. We're grateful you're here. All right, the next part of the evening is heartaches. So we as humans are not designed to carry heartaches on our own. We intend to internalize things. This time is for you to share, to get that thing off your chest that might be bothering you, whether it's a death, an illness, you know, something that's just not going right and you need to be lifted up. So if you would, please share your comments online, and this 3 minutes is yours.
Hi, I'm Cass, and if we could pray for my mom. She decided this week that she was gonna AMA out of the hospital after having 1 brain surgery, supposed to have 3. And so now she's just driving around homeless with 2 blood clots on her brain that she was supposed to get removed that she decided not to. So if we could keep her in our prayers.
Yes, praying for your mom.
My name is Layla again. I just wanted to ask for more prayers for my mom who's still in active addiction, and for all the addicts that are still out there struggling today. It's important that we keep them and hold them up.
Thanks, Layla. Lifting those up, still struggling.
I just want to say prayers to my daughter. She's in Cancun right now. I just want to give her prayers to her, stay safe, and she's probably seeing us right now on YouTube right now. So just want to give some prayers out to her.
Thanks, Fredo, lifting her up.
If you can please pray for my daughter and me. Tomorrow is my brother's 2-year anniversary that he's been gone. She called me crying earlier today, and she's struggling. So she's 14. So if you guys can pray for us, thank you.
Praying for you and your family.
My twin sister just recently started using again, and my mom is like she's just over it after everything she went through with me, and then my sister for 10 years before me. So it's like just been like 20 years of addiction for my mom, and I just want them both to be okay.
Lifting up your sister.
Just want to lift up prayers for my brother Saxon. He's still in active addiction, continuing to get worse. Prayers that he sees the light soon, that he can't go on living like this. And, you know, prayers for me as well. Recently I had to set a boundary. I decided I wasn't going to love him to death and watch him kill himself. So I had to put some real boundaries in place. But, you know, there's always that guilt when you do that. So, but just prayers that he figures it out and he can see the damage and he reaches out for help.
Yeah, prayers for Saxon.
I was just going to mention Carrie and John as well. You guys might have heard that they lost their daughter Tawny, and a good friend of ours and a member of this community too, just over a month ago. And I reached out to them last Saturday, just checking in because it had just hit over a month, and she said it's very real now after it being a month, as we know, after it kind of settles in a bit and the dust settles some. And it's very difficult. So just prayers for them as the reality is hitting them a bit more recently.
Thank you, Tammy. Tammy, would you join me again? Thank you. It's the easy pick, you know, the one with a mic. You know,
I thought it was done.
Yeah. And you can go first again.
Okay. Hi, Mike says, please pray for my sister. The house she has rented for a long time is being sold, and she's having problems with her dental work. She is also struggling financially. Prayers for her, Mike.
Thank you, everyone. That's all we have for tonight. If you have been impacted by the mission here at Free of breaking the silence of addiction, we rely on you and your generous giving to keep our mission going day in and day out. We're starting to grow and evolve, and we're really grateful for everything that you can give. There is no amount too small or too big. There are 3 ways that you can give. The first way is with the app, the Free Recovery Community app. You can download it on the Google Store or the App Store on Apple or Google phones. The second one is our website, freerecoverycommunity.com. There's a donate tab that you can give one time, monthly, or reoccurring, any denomination. And the third one is the giving kiosks outside each one of these doors for you cash and check type. Everything that you can, we really appreciate it. And that's all we have. The final thing to take us out tonight would be the Serenity Prayer. For those of you that don't know it, it'll be on the screen. But if you would, just as a sign of openness, nothing magical about it, if you'd open your hands and join us. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen, and thank you for being here.